And these veterans,
Okay,
when they go on a
I
trip,
just need to turn it on.
when they first meet with each other, there's kind of a hesitation, quietness. Within 5 minutes, they're best friends. I've seen veterans that have been in a dark place, and I don't want to go there, but I've seen them in a dark place. When they come out 3 days, they've changed. I better stop and give this guy, because I'll keep going.
Hi guys, is this actually working?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Rob Hooker. I'm an Iraq vet. I got involved with the Honor Flight about 4 years ago. I actually saw an ad during an Avalanche game back in 2019 and said that looks like a really cool thing. Then the pandemic hit, and then after that I got a random call asking if I wanted to go, and I totally forgot about it. Went on my first trip and I got hooked as a Guardian. So I'm the Guardian coordinator. I am the one that selects all of our volunteers that escort our veterans on these trips. And that first trip was an amazing thing for me to do, to be a part of, to give back to those that came before me. And on my second trip, I got asked to join the board of directors, which I was kind of surprised because I had no idea what I was doing. And they threw me in this role, and it has been like a passion project for me, because being able to take you guys, the older vets, to DC to see the memorials and be a part of that and help you guys is more than I could actually ask for myself. But yeah, like what you said, what we do is we take 30 vets 4 times a month, or 4 times a year, twice in the spring, twice in the fall. We spend 3 days in DC touring all the memorials there that pertain to the military. The World War II Memorial, the World War I Memorial, the Navy Lone Sailor, Vietnam, Korea, Lincoln, FDR. We go to Arlington, the Iwo Jima Memorial, Air Force, and then a whole bunch of small little surprises in the mix throughout there. This is a trip for you guys where you are front and center. You are the show. It is 100% free for the veterans. We treat you like royalty the entire time we're there. Come back home, and like you said, it is a life-changing experience for everybody. And what we really want is we want as many vets to sign up as possible, and as well as Guardians. For Guardians, we do pay our fee to go, which is, the small contribution for us to take care of you guys. But I accept Guardians from 18 to 70 years old. I do have a cutoff for Guardians because of the amount of work that we do. But yeah, we'll take anybody that wants to go. Anything else? Yeah.
So we're a nonprofit organization. We exist from fundraising. That's how we wind up getting our funds. The cost of 30 veterans and 24 Guardians per flight is roughly it's about $60,000. Like Rob said, we do 4 flights a year. Each hub is different within the United States. So some, like you were talking about High Plains or Northern. You guys went 1 day.
No, we were there 3 days.
3 days? Because there's some hubs that only do 1 day. We do 3 days, and our group is smaller, so that way we can get that one-on-one connection. We divide in the teams, so we'll have 5 to 6 or 5 vets to 3 to 4 Guardians. We also travel with nurses. We have a nurse practitioner. Sometimes we'll have a physician. So the veterans are taken care of. But let me tell you, it is the most. People will ask me, how would you describe an honor flight? And the simple thing that one word is love, because you see the passion that the board members, the Guardians have to each one of the vets, and it's pure love. It is very emotional, and it will change a Guardian's perspective on life, and it will change the veteran. I've had veterans' families come back to me and tell me, my father never talked about his experiences until he came back. And that is something that you can't put a price on. I've had veterans, especially the Vietnam guys, tell me after they come back from the wall, they said, you know what, Henry, I can finally let it go. I can let it go. And you'll have veterans that live in nursing homes or assisted living, where they have nobody. But once they do the honor flight, now they have more friends. Because when we do these honor flights, it's not like we just do the honor flights and honor you veterans and that's it. We become friends with each one of our guys and gals for a lifetime. And then we also do a Christmas party or a holiday party once a year just to get everybody together and to hang out. And Rob and I, we've gone out consuming some beverages with some of them.
What kind of beverages?
Adult libations.
Holiday cheer.
Liquids. So I'll give that back to Rob.
Yeah, so, like you said, we are 100% nonprofit. Everything we do is based off of donations and fundraising. So we also like to solicit donations as well. We do have some cards up here for a very passive means of donations through King Supers. If you have a King Supers card, all that stuff, you can scan this QR code we have and you can tie your account to their donation program, and percentage of your purchases, like you're not physically paying us, but a percentage of that King Supers kicks to us. And
What is the percentage?
I don't remember.
I don't.
I don't remember. It's a program that King Supers does,
Okay.
where multiple nonprofits have these. You select who you want to donate to. And I also have a couple of my business cards, and on our business cards we have a QR code for our website where there's a donation tab on that, as well as on our website is where the applications are. There's an application for the veterans, the guardians, and as well for volunteers, for in-state volunteering stuff for at the airport, events, all that kind of thing. And then also family member guardians. That is one thing that we actually don't really talk about that much, but each trip we reserve 2 veteran spots and 2 guardian spots for a veteran to bring one family member. And we limit it to 2 veteran family member spots per trip, because we're not a 1-for-1. We don't take one guardian for every veteran. So all of our guardians help out all of our veterans. So those spots for family members to come on, those are usually reserved for veterans that need a family member for medical assistance, that kind of stuff. But we don't frown upon you putting your application in as a family member to go. We just can't always honor every request. So we do encourage you to submit those applications, and we'd like to take every veteran in this room at some point.
Oh, one more thing, and I'll cut it, because
You're fine.
September 18th, watch Channel 9, we're gonna be doing a telethon. Runs from 5 a.m. to,
5 a.m. to 7 p.m.
and we need, if you wanna volunteer and answer phones, we need volunteers.
I am the contact for that, so if you'd like to volunteer to come down to the studio and be a part of that, get with me after this and I can give you my information.
And then if you,
all day.
All day.
all day, and you pick your hours, because each person has, some people are working, and so you can, let Rob know, how many hours you can work, and they feed you, and they really, Channel 9 is really great, they take really good care of us. And then go on our website, and we've got 2 flights coming up, September and October, and if you wanna come out and see the welcome, and
Send off.
send off, and just let us know. Okay, I'm
And
done.
that's all we got.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
So, if you have any more questions, maybe look around.
Thank you, Henry, thank you, Rob. It's a really important program, and I think it's an excellent program from, what I've seen, what I've heard about what you guys do. Will you guys leave us some paperwork or some additional cards?
Oh,
so we
yeah,
get more
yeah.
contact?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we will have those at the museum here. those of you who are interested, even if you're interested in volunteering for the telethon. So you will have contact there with either of these two great gentlemen. So, with that being said, one thing I forgot to mention is we have a video about the shooting down of Yamamoto that we are going to play after a little break after Phil's talk today. If you are interested in sticking around for that, it is about 45, 50 minutes long. It's pretty good. It goes into some interviews with some of the pilots who were there. So it might be of interest for you if you want to hang out with us a little longer after the talk. So just to let you know about that. John?
We'll have hot dogs available for lunch
Oh.
during that time.
How do you like that? Additional bonus, right? Hot dogs, okay. Come on, you're a veteran, you know how to eat a raw hot dog. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, I'm going to introduce Mr. Phil Waters. If you'll come on up here, Phil.
Okay, if I move the furniture around a little
You
bit.
can move it around a little bit. We don't want you out of the
Okay.
camera too much. So is he still okay
Okay.
there, Bob?
Good morning, folks.
We need you maybe a little more over this.
Oh. Hi, John. My son, John, stand up.
Oh, boy.
My son, John, he's 100% Korean biologically, and that's another story. Well, thank you for the invitation, Don, and you guys. And without too much fanfare here, I'm going to go right to the presentation. What you're looking at here, as you've probably figured out now, various scenes from the raid on Pearl Harbor on December the 7th, 1941. And it's not pretty. So the primary source of my information is from the inside the Air Force magazine, which I have been a member of, and even though I was in the Navy, it was a great magazine until the space people took over, and it's not so great anymore. But what we're looking at here is the photo illustration depicts U.S. Army Air Force Lieutenant Barber's P-38G Lightning immediately after firing the fatal blow that killed Yamamoto on April the 18th, 1943. 1 year exactly from the Doolittle raid in Japan. And it happened to be Easter Sunday also. Okay, let's take a look at a little bit about Isoroku Yamamoto's background. Serving on the armed forces, the armored cruiser Nishin during the Russo-Japanese War of 04 and 05, he was wounded in combat, losing 2 fingers and abdominal scars from shrapnel. He opposed war against the United States, partly because of his studies at Harvard University in 1919, 1921, and his 2 postings as a naval attaché in Washington, D.C. There he learned to speak fluent English. Yamamoto traveled extensively in the U.S. during his tour of duty there, where he studied American customs and business practices. He was one of a handful of Japanese officers who understood that Americans, as free people, would respond furiously if attacked, and he got that right. Yamamoto, the architect of Japanese naval strategy. What you're looking at here is some of the notes that he had used to plan the attack on Pearl Harbor, including the December 7th raid on Pearl Harbor, was hated by most Americans, certainly by all the United States sailors. Yamamoto was the commander-in-chief of the combined fleet during World War II, and one of his quotations, "I fear that all we have done is to awake a sleeping giant and fill it with a terrible resolve." That's the second thing he got right. And the third thing is right up here on the upper left-hand corner. It wouldn't be enough that we take Guam and the Philippines, or even Hawaii and San Francisco. To make victory certain, we would have to march into Washington and dictate terms of the peace in the White House. Yamamoto said that at some point, and we'll see later on how that fits into what the P-38Gs did. Yamamoto's warning fell on deaf ears, and the admiral ultimately bowed to the rapacious ambitions of the Japanese High Command. He planned the Pearl Harbor strike, then took full command of the Imperial Navy. And some quotations that I don't have here is he gave roughly 1 year, and if we wipe out the whole U.S. fleet, and in 1 year, if we don't have in charge by that time, then I can't be responsible for what happens afterwards. Oops, I think I went too fast. Okay, a little geography here. The Solomon Islands run roughly southeast to northwest. You see where Rabaul is, that's what he was, and Guadalcanal is. Admiral Yamamoto, commander of the Imperial Japanese Navy, scheduled an inspection tour of the Solomon Islands in New Guinea. He planned to inspect Japanese air units who, based on much inflated reports of success, he had participated in Operation IGO that had begun on the 7th of April, about a week ago, 1943, the largest scale attack on Pearl Harbor. In addition, the tour would greatly boost the Japanese morale following the disastrous campaign and its subsequent evacuation during January and February. The last Japanese troops were out on February the 2nd of 43, so a couple of months there afterwards. Yamamoto inspects Japanese fighters, and Admiral Yamamoto's leading Japanese naval pilots on Rabaul, April 18, 1942. Unit commanders begged him not to go, or at least not wear his white uniform. He changed that to khaki, but there are some indications that he didn't change it to khaki. I'll talk about that later. The encrypted message was transmitted to all relevant units of that tour in 14 April 1943. By 11 o'clock on 14 April 1943, the U.S. Naval Intelligence had intercepted, deciphered that transmission, alerting several Japanese units of Yamamoto's planned tour base in the Solomon Islands. The decoded report represented an intelligence jackpot. The decrypted text revealed that on 18 April, Yamamoto would fly from Rabaul to Balalay Airfield on an island near Bougainville in the Solomon Islands. He and his staff would fly in a Mitsubishi G4M1 Betty, we'll talk about that more later, escorted by 6 Navy Mitsubishi Zero fighters to depart from Rabaul at 0600 and to land at 0800 Tokyo time. The text of the interception and decryption transmission from Rabaul to Balalay, short and bouillon. I'm not going to go through the reading the whole thing, but I want to just point out here that it mentions a medium attack plane. No mention of a second medium attack plane with Yamamoto's chief of staff aboard. We'll talk more about that later. The information immediately went from Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet Chester Nimitz to Secretary of the Navy Frank Knox, who called in General Hap Arnold, Chief of the Army Air Force, who was very enthusiastic. They poured over maps to come up with the best location for the intercept. When the news got to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, President's response was, "Get Yamamoto." Regardless of whether the president said those words, the order was given, kill the mastermind of the Pearl Harbor. And Admiral Bull Halsey was the overseer of this mission. Commonly known among Japanese pilots as the cigar. Well, you can see why they call it the cigar. Allied fighter pilots nicknamed the G4M the Flying Lighter or Flying Zippo. Any reason they gave it that name? Yes.
A few hot rounds would get it started on fire.
Yes. The Japanese put distance over having self-sealing gas tanks. And they also didn't armor the systems that were in place, essentially electric and hydraulic, and the crew members, they didn't protect them. So whenever if you got a shot at the wing of one of the aircraft near the engine, that's what gave it the name the Flying Lighter or the Flying Zippo. Okay, 30 caliber guns on this side and on the other side. The Butch O'Hare is named after. His name is named after Chicago Airport, Butch O'Hare, and when he first got it to the Pacific and started dueling with the 30 caliber guns on the Betty or whatever aircraft, he kept thinking, what is this plinking I'm hearing off of my canopy? Well, it turned out to be 30 caliber rounds that were stopped by a canopy. So they weren't real effective. What was effective was the Type 20 millimeter cannon in the tail. Now, we lost a lot of guys because they didn't know there's a 20 millimeter cannon back there. And those who knew it, such as Butch O'Hare, he shot down 7, but they only gave him credit for 5, and he got the Medal of Honor for it. And I just made a comparison here with the B-25 Mitchell. The only thing I want to point out here is look at the difference between 1,350 miles as opposed to 1,724, over 400 miles distance. They wanted range in the Pacific, and we all wanted range, but we also wanted to protect the aircraft. Okay, this is the Japanese Zero, and you can see that it's not a real fast airplane, but it did have a range of 1,160 miles. So it had 2 30 caliber machine guns and 2 20 millimeter cannons. I'm not sure why they don't depict the other one, but that was what was the death knell for a lot of American pilots, those 20 millimeter cannons. Navy and Marine Corps F-4F Wildcats and F-4U Corsairs did not have the range to travel the estimated 435 miles to the planned interception point, about 7 hours total. The only fighter capable of that range were the U.S. Army Air Force's P-38G model Lightnings, and you can see a picture of some based at Guadalcanal right there. That's the aircraft the only aircraft that could have done this. I didn't realize it, but the P-38 was considered to be a heavy fighter. And it was heavy, but we'll talk about the rate of climb here in a minute. It's got 4 machine guns here and 1 12-meter cannon, which means all I had to do is to sight in the machine guns and the cannon was to pull it to the center at 1,000 yards or so, and boom. The P-38s were filled with external to extend their range, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. The combined rate of fire was over 4,000 rounds roughly every sixth projectile, a 20 millimeter shell. Duration of sustained fire for the 20 millimeter cannon was about 14 seconds, while the 450 caliber machine guns worked for 45 seconds. And whenever you're in a dogfight, that's very important. Was fully loaded with 500 rounds. Maximum speed, I compared it with the P-51, and here's the major difference. 3,200 feet per minute, and the rate of climb on the P-38 was 4,750. It was a climbing son of a gun. This is where they came up with the drop tanks. General Kinney, Commander Southwest Pacific Air Forces, expedited delivery of 36 drop tanks, half 165 and half 310 gallons. They didn't have enough 310-gallon tanks. If they had been able to scrounge that many, it was 18 Air P-38s. Then the fuel consumption would not have been so critical. Expeditiously, 3 hours later, 4 B-24s, Liberators, were headed for Guadalcanal with these drop tanks. Guadalcanal's over here, Rabal's up there somewhere, up there. The mission, dubbed Operation Vengeance, was headed by Major John Mitchell. Now, I have to encourage you to remember these people, regardless of what their mission was, but remember the names to the degree that you're possible. CO of the 339th Fighters using P-38s, and pilots from his squadron and 2 other squadrons worked backwards, time of interception, and drew 4 precisely calculated wings. Okay, this is this map, as you can see, is not east-west, it's north. North is that direction, and the first leg was here, second leg was there, excuse me, third leg was there, and the fourth leg there. Major Mitchell figured the odds merely of spotting Yamamoto's flight, better yet shooting it down, at 1,000 to 1. Nevertheless, the decoded intelligence had to be acted upon. The P-38's pilots were eager to supply that connection. So here's what you need to keep in mind. There were 12 fighters top cover. To handle the 6 Japanese Zeros that they knew were coming. 4 to attack Yamamoto's plane, and to be politically correct, you couldn't call it the kill team, but that's what the Air Force magazine used, the attack team, and 2 spares. As it turned out, Lieutenant Holmes and Lieutenant Hine were the spares who replaced 2 on the attack team. If they had been a part of the 12 planes that were cover for them, it wouldn't have made that much difference. Excuse me. They flew 50 feet above water in radio silence, changing the changing the course to avoid Japanese islands and bases in the Solomons. The attack expect resistance from 0 fighters at Buin. Now, Buin is right here, and I scoured the internet for how many planes were at Buin, but this picture actually shows 8 aircraft. There may have only been 8, but there were at least 8, and it was customary whenever the Admiral flew from A to B, for B to provide an escort for the fighters. So here again, you see the Rabaul is over here, and Bougainville is over here, and and that's about all I want to talk about right now on this show. Again, just to give you an idea, northwest to southeast are the Solomon Islands, and here is Henderson Field down here. And they were actually 3 runways by the time the Seabees got their hands on it, and really did a good job. And they paid the price for it too. You can see that the Japanese, being up here in Rabaul, were in charge of this part of New Guinea, and all they had to do was go around here, the finger here, and you're in Australia. And if anybody was on an American ship, that especially the Coral Sea during Vietnam, you couldn't buy a drink in a bar. You couldn't eat a meal without somebody stepping forward and thanking you for them, even generations later. Mitchell took the lead and 4 attack team planes directly behind him. The remainder fanned out and still further behind the attack team. So you got Mitchell, the attack team, and then the 12. Mitchell recently had a Navy compass installed in his cockpit. He was a very smart guy. And between the compass, his watch, and the plane's airspeed indicator, he carefully checked off each leg of the flight, hoping to arrive at the estimated kill point at exactly 9:35. Dead reckoning. Any pilots here or any navigators who have had to do dead reckoning? Okay, you know what dead reckoning is, and it's pretty antiquated by today's standards. If all else fails, you go with dead reckoning, but we got all manner of aids, including GPS these days. Let's see. In a world long before computers, it was brains, skill, and guts that would guide this mission. It was 9:34. The American planes had arrived 1 minute early. The sky in all directions appeared empty of enemy aircraft. Then one of the pilots in the covering group called out over the radio, "Bogies, 11 o'clock high." And the fight is on. Okay, here's the first slide of 5 slides, I think it is, that I'm going to use, and the Air Force's article that they used. My comments from my other 6 references will be showing up over here. And otherwise, you would think, why does he repeat itself? Well, there's a reason for that, and you can see as we go along here. So this depicts Rabaul and the 6 aircraft that are protecting Yamamoto and the 2nd Betty bomber. The Kukum field is the field that they took off of, and they were at this point right there. 16 P-38s took off at 7:30 a.m. from Kukum Field, Guadalcanal, staying 50 miles offshore at an altitude of 50 feet or less. Yamamoto's plane climbs to 6,500 feet. The top cover sits at 8,000 feet. The P-38s arrived 15 minutes before Yamamoto was to have landed. 16 USAF P-38s arrive at the intercept point at 9:34 a.m. At 9:35, they spot the Japanese G4M Betty bombers transporting Admiral Yamamoto and Vice Admiral Ugaki and an escort of 60 fighters. 12 B-38s climbed to 18,000 feet. Now, why did you want to climb to 18,000 feet whenever your enemy is at 8,000 feet? So that is one discrepancy that I think that the Air Force should have left out. To provide air cover while the 4-ship kill team, yeah, you see they use kill, that's a no-no. You can't say killed. 12 B-38s, let's see, okay. Captain Tom Lamphere, Rex Barber, and Besby Holmes, and Lieutenant Raymond Hine climbed to attack the bombers. This is all depicted here. You can see in the second slide. We don't know what happened to the other Japanese. Let's see. I wanted to talk about The chief of staff was in the second Betty. That's one thing that they didn't, everybody was surprised when there was 2 Bettys. Now we've got to shoot down both of them. The Japanese pilots did not see the P-38s until they were a mile away. Now, okay, they're looking for the fighters to come up from Buen Airport. They're not looking out over the Pacific Ocean. And so they were undetected until they were a mile away. The Japanese see the US P-38s climbing to attack. The Betty bombers dive as closest 3 Zeros escorts engage the kill team, not knowing which Betty is carrying Yamamoto, which must be attacked and destroyed. Both Bettys. Mitchell immediately radioed Tom Lempier, and now Tom was Mitchell. He was the overall leader of the group. Lempier to take on the Zeros. All right, Tom, he cried, you go get him. The Japanese Zeros dropped their tanks, and the 3 nearest Zeros head for the attack team. Now, this is Medal of Honor reader as far as I'm concerned. Instead of Lempier attacks 3 Zeros, freeing Barber to go after the Betty transports. He just turned into these fighters. Again, I don't know what happened to the other 3 Zeros, but he did a very bold thing, and which allowed Barber to go after the Betty transports. Meanwhile, Holmes has trouble freeing his aircraft's drop tank, so he breaks off from the kill group. His wingman, Hein, follows to protect him as he attempts to free the tank. Ignoring the odds against him, this is a better presentation here. Ignoring the odds against him, Lempier went straight at the Zeros. He attacked the fighters head-on, spraying them with the full weight of his machine gun and cannon, instantly scattering their dive. Their mission was not to shoot down Zeros. Their mission was to kill Yamamoto. Yamamoto's Betty dives for the treetops as Barber comes out of his steep turn. Barber comes screaming into fast skids. If you know what a skid is, it is cross-controlling of an aircraft, and you lose all your lift. And it's very handy if you're coming in way too high on the carrier, otherwise it can kill you. The P-38's to break his speed and starts firing into the Betty's right engine, rear fuselage, and what is the empennage? What is that?
Tail.
That's the tail. Why didn't they call it the tail? Anyway, I guess that's French. I'm not sure what it was. 15 feet above the jungle. The Betty steepens its dive. So this is what the artist is demonstrating here. The Betty carrying Ugaki races out to sea to escape the ambush. After freeing his drop tank, Holmes and Hein spot Ugaki's aircraft and pursue it. Holmes turns into the sea, to which they spot Ugaki's plane is heading. Barber attacks Yamamoto's Betty, and the right engine begins to smoke. He continues firing as he closes the distance. The Betty slows down and drops left, but Barber does not see the aircraft crash. Later on, he sees a smoke rising from the jungle. When Barber hits his right engine, the bomber begins to trail heavy black smoke. The Betty rolled violently to the left, and Barber narrowly avoided a mid-air collision. Barber hammered the left engine. Now both engines are smoking. Barber pumps rounds into the cockpit, and while just clearing the treetops, the left wing drops. Barber yanks back on the yoke to clear the right wing of Yamamoto's plane. So what? Okay, after attacking Yamamoto, Barber is jumped by 3 Zeros, but P-38's flying top cover chased them off. Well, there's 12 of them. Why wouldn't they disrupt or protect their kill team or their attack team? Barber sees Hind and Holmes make firing pass at Ugaki's Betty, scoring hits before breaking off and heading back to the base. Now you'd think, why didn't they stick around? Well, they were running out of fuel, and we'll talk about that more later. Making firing pass at Ugaki's hits before breaking off and heading back to the base. Barber attacks the Betty, which catches fire and explodes, hitting the water. Ugaki and 2 others survive. Hein was the only American casualty, perhaps shot down by one of the Japanese Zero escorts. Barber heads toward the coast at treetop level, searching for the second bomber, not knowing which one carries Yamamoto. He spots the second bomber low over the water, trying to evade an attack by Holmes and Hein. Holmes damages the right engine of the Betty. His closer speed carries him and Hein past the damaged bomber. Barber attacks the crippled bomber. His bullet strikes cause it to shed metal debris, which damages his own aircraft. The Betty descends and crashes in the water at an estimated speed of 300 miles an hour. Well, it would cruise at probably 175 or 200. Ugaki, his pilot, and 1 other survived the crash and were later rescued by Japanese patrol boats. That must have been interesting to have your plane explode and then wind up in the water and being able to go home and tell about it. Barber, Holmes, and Hein were attacked by Zeros, with Barber's P-38 receiving 104 hits. Now that's 104 hits, and I don't know whether they calculated the trajectory of the bullet that made an exit, but anyway, it was at least 104 hits. Holmes and Barber each shot down a Zero while trying to disengage and heads for home. My guess is, and nobody mentioned this, that they took the gun camera out to save weight, because weight meant, that wasn't the plan. So they didn't get credit for those. All 6 of the escort Zeros were accounted for after the tango with the P-38s. There must have been several more that rose from the wind to escort Yamamoto to touchdown. At the very last part of my talk, I will mention that what happened to the 6 pilots that were supposed to be covering Yamamoto, but they didn't. Obviously, they didn't. Mitchell observed the column of smoke Yamamoto's crash bomber. Mission accomplished, Mitchell called out, watching as the second bomber went into the sea. Everybody get your ass home. Running close to minimum fuel levels, the P-38s broke off contact with the Zeros. Again, we're not down here to shoot down MiGs, or not MiGs, but Zeros. Holmes was so short of fuel that he was forced to land at a forward base in the Russell Islands. I'll show you that where it is on the map. As he approached Henderson Field, Lamphere radioed the fighter director on Guadalcanal, that SOB will not be dictating any peace terms in the White House. I'm not sure what Lamphere was thinking, but he was obviously taking credit for the killing of Yamamoto. And to announce that, they weren't even told who it was about before they launched. So they just had to speculate that it was somebody of a great importance, and it was. As he approached Henderson Field, breaching security and engendering the code-breaking program. Upon landing, 1 engine quit from fuel starvation. As he climbs to 12,000 feet, Rex Barber, now all the shooting's over now at this point. Rex Barber sees rising dust from a bare spot at the end of Bougainville and realizes that it's the Zero fighters taking off. And I took a guess that it would be somewhere around here. This is where the action took place and down here, and maybe it was right in there somewhere. Barber sees the Zeros taking off. Hine was probably in the P-38 that Barber saw trailing smoke heading southwest out to sea. So Barber sights Hine. He is the only P-38 that took hits from the other than Barber, which had 104 hits. With and Barber sights Hine trailing smoke off of his left engine. This is the only picture I could find of Bull Halsey smiling. Usually, there's a ton of pictures that show him not smiling. Halsey once sent this signal to Henderson Field. Congratulations, Major Mitchell and his hunters. Sounds as though the ducks in the bag was a peacock. I'm not sure what he meant by that, but anyway, when news were announced Halsey's conference next morning, his officers whooped and applauded. Halsey's observed sourly. What's good about it? What's good about it? I had hoped to lead that scoundrel up Pennsylvania Avenue in change with the rest of you kicking where it would do the most good. That was Bull Halsey. So I imagine there were a lot of Betty bombers shot down in Bougainville and in that area. So this is all the sites I looked at. None of them looked like they were exploded. And anyway, this is what they found the next day. I think they organized a hunting party. The Christ site and body of Yamamoto were found the next day. Yamamoto had been thrown clear of the plane's wreckage, strapped to his seat, his white gloved hand grasping the hilt of his sword. He was either wearing whites or khakis, but white gloves with khakis doesn't make any sense. Yamamoto was wounded twice, the left shoulder and in the head. The Japanese Navy doctor determined the head wound killed Yamamoto. And it was probably, without a doubt, I'm not sure why there was even an argument between Barber and Lamphere. The evidence was in that Barber had sprayed the canopy, both engines, the canopy, the tail gunner with machine gun fire, and no mention of Lamphere at all. Yamamoto's ashes returned to Japan aboard the battleship Musashi on May the 23rd, 1943, about 3 weeks later. The new battleship was to be with the flagship of Yamamoto. When the death of Yamamoto was related to the crew, Yamamoto's flag was lowered from the mastaf. The Musashi went about a year and a half, but the battleship was sunk by 10 torpedoes from American airplanes on 24 October 1944. It took 10 torpedoes to sink that baby. 18-inch guns. 650,000 people attended Yamamoto's funeral. The death of Yamamoto reportedly damaged the morale of Japanese naval personnel, raised the morale of the Allied forces, and was intended as vengeance by U.S. leaders who blamed Yamamoto for the attack on Pearl Harbor. So here it's picture time, photo time. Okay, there's a lot to look at here. If I had been Admiral Bill Halsey, I would have given the Medal of Honor to Mitchell, who planned the mission, and there's no mention of him having any engagement at all, and Rex Barber. And the Lampier is the guy that is contesting who shot down Yamamoto, and Bestby, where does he get the name Bestby? I don't know. Bestby Holmes. And there's Barber and Mitchell, and you can see the pictures here. I would have given these two guys the Navy Cross, and the rest of the flight, which was basically 12 aircraft, the Silver Star, probably something like that. This is probably the best book. The entire book, which is about this big, the entire book is about the shoot down of Yamamoto. Yamamoto's loss is impossible to quantify, though without him fighting against the Allies in the Pacific, the war becomes somewhat more predictable. Would Yamamoto have been forced back to Japan's interdefensive line as quickly as his successor? Possibly. Would Yamamoto have exacted a much higher cost of American blood for those hard-won victories? Almost certainly. We'll never know, but at the tactical battlefield level, less blood was spilled and the path to Allied victory was made easier with the Admiral dead. This is a picture taken Rex Barber and as he looked whenever he was way after World War II, and these are the credits that I used, and this is, if you want to get the book, it's number 6 here, The Astonishing Ambush That Changed World War II. And if you have the opportunity to see this movie afterwards, that'll be cool too. Well, I don't think I could answer very many questions, but I'll try. Yes, sir.
Is there any information here about who are the code breakers?
Who were the what? Who the
Code breakers?
They're real heroes in this thing too, of any.
Yeah, if you watch any of the Midway movies, and there's been 3 of them out now, I think you'll see a lot of credit gets to the Navy from decrypting and translating the whereabouts of, in this case, Yamamoto. Yes, Don?
Why was it a no-no to say kill team?
That's my own thoughts.
What did they refer to it as?
It's not politically correct to describe a group of people as killers, the kill team. But back in World War II, that's what they called them.
That's what it would be. And then I just got a couple more.
Yeah.
If Yamamoto was found clutching his sword, the question about the uniform of whites and the naval whites compared to khaki.
Yeah.
If he were in khaki, why would he be clutching?
Yeah.
Unless that was
I think the
stupid.
point, this is from the Dan Hamilton book.
Okay.
Number 6. I think, and they go into great detail about the team that found Yamamoto. He was actually propped up under a tree, but he was dead.
Oh.
And the bullet that killed him probably wasn't a direct enter into his skull. It must have hit a piece of metal, maybe the armrest, I don't know. And then that's what killed him. So they go into a lot more detail about the autopsy of Yamamoto, etc. But yeah, it didn't make any sense to. He was known for his. This is the guy in whites, and you got to admit that's a good-looking uniform. I wish I had spent my time in the Navy as opposed to the FBI, but that's another story. Anyway,
Just a comment, for those of us who are hearing challenged, the setup that you have on screen with the words really helped me. So it was made a lot clearer that way, and I appreciate that.
that's part of the reason. The rest is you can see me struggling for brain cells here. As
All of us.
senior moments. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you actually touched on the importance of the code-breaking operation.
Yes.
My understanding that all the surviving pilots, I wasn't aware, I'm glad you brought it up, that we lost actually one, but it was my impression that all 15 of the surviving pilots were forced to go back to the United States and were never deployed overseas again because they didn't want to risk the code-breaking operation if they were ever shot down.
And here's Lamphere, comes back on not a secure radio and transmits to the director.
And I'd never seen that before.
What was he thinking, you know?
Yeah, no kidding.
That, it was just, I guess his desire to be the guy who had shot down Yamamoto, but there was no evidence of it. It went to federal court. And I don't know why there was that much evidence.
But you know,
Anyway,
you get these young men who are, you know, pretty much what we would call type A personalities, right, as pilots. Very competitive.
General. Is that the same?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Same as a hot shot?
I think it was understandable for that time period, because I mean, you think of it, if you were stationed anywhere in the Pacific, Yamamoto was the number one, maybe outside of, you know, I don't know, somebody like Tojo, but
Yeah.
he was the number one target. So to be able to claim that you were the individual who shot him down, that was some pretty high accolades.
Yeah.
Yeah, on 9/11, 2001, we lost roughly 3,000 people just like this.
Just like that.
That's what happened after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
That was the American sentiment. And anyway, they screwed up. The Japanese screwed up by not announcing it ahead of time, even 1 minute. But it was a classified raid. Yes, ma'am.
It would seem to me that's a strategy for Yamamoto to be piloting a plane who was the best strategist for Japan in the Navy. Why would they do that? I mean, it just seems to me that that was not a smart decision. They needed to protect him.
He didn't pilot the plane.
Well, he was.
Well, why was he in the plane? Right.
He,
He had to go on inspection.
that's how he made this trip, in the back of the plane, and they were dedicated. Like I didn't comment on everything that was on the screen there, but they only had one belt of ammo. I don't know how much that is, but they were there to protect Yamamoto, and he wasn't a pilot of the plane.
Was he a pilot though that did take other?
I don't think Yamamoto was a pilot.
No, he was not.
Okay.
Yeah, he was not a pilot.
Okay, that answers my question.
And I'm not sure if Phil touched on this, but one of the reasons why they had the two planes, which turned out to be a surprise, the two Betty bombers, is they had split his staff officers. So the idea was that, I think his second in command was in the other aircraft.
Yes, Ugati.
And so that really when they showed up and they found two of these Betty bombers instead of the one they were expecting, they said, well, now we gotta shoot them both now, right?
Yeah.
So, it's like the old nutshell game, you know?
But that was a mistake on their strategy though, to have those two powerful people in the air at the same time.
Well, they were in different airplanes, and it was probably a last-minute thing because they didn't, you know, if they had sent out another transmission, then that would have been intercepted, and there was no other secondary transmission after they had made the first one, which was only one bomber. See, this guy has a
Yeah.
question.
Was there any relationship with John Mitchell that you showed here?
Oh.
Billy Mitchell?
Not to Billy, no.
I have no idea. No idea.
Was this a routine inspection for Yamamoto and his chief
Well,
of
it was-
staff, or was it were they going to Rabaul for a
They-
reason? Was
okay.
there something going wrong?
They had been severely embarrassed by not winning over Guadalcanal, by letting the Americans kick them out. I mean, if you read anything about Guadalcanal, they were walking skeletons, but they were starving to death. And they finally, on the 7th of April, the 7th of February, they pulled the last guys out. So morale was low. And on the other hand, he had these inflated credits coming to his way, and he wanted to go bolster the morale of the fighters and the mostly fighters, I guess, Zero fighters at Buin and Shortland there, and maybe one other place. Yeah. You know, one thing I must have missed somehow. Hang on just a second. I missed somehow the slide that shows what happened to Holmes. He was running out of fuel, and we had conquered the Japanese on the Russell Islands, and so he dropped his gear and dropped his flaps. And when the guys working on the runway saw that, they got all the heavy equipment off, and he landed, and he actually ran off the other end, but it was not damaging enough so it wouldn't fly again. The cool thing is that this PT boat, I don't know how I missed this on the slide because it's so cool. This PT boat comes around about 2 hours later, and they had seen, you know, P-38s all over the place. And because the PT boats had 12-cylinder V12 engines, they had 3 of them, they were burning 100% octane. They were burning, not 100%, 100 octane avgas. So the skipper of the PT boat gave Holmes 120 gallons or so, and he was home by dinner. Now, the only other thing is that I missed this again in my haste to finish up here. Whenever Hine pulled off, he had lost one engine, and a PBY, probably a PBY-5, was bringing supplies to the watchers. What do they call them? Watchers. Coast watchers. Yeah. And that's got to be a pretty bold guy too. Anyway, whenever he was monitoring all these 16 planes go in, and then they're coming out, and then all this radio traffic on emergency, and he wasn't surprised when probably Hine, pulled up next to him, and he talked to him on 243 UHF, and he said, all I need is, I think I've got enough gas to get home. All I need is a heading. So the PBY pilot gave him the heading, and he slowly went to that heading on one engine, never heard from him again.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the conversations aside, after they shot Yamamoto down and they're reveling in their conquer, wouldn't the Japanese have thought, how the hell did they know that? And was it more than just a coincidence that they arrived on time? That the Americans had somehow, that it was more than just a coincidence?
Yes.
That these P-38 showed up when
Yes.
Yamamoto was in.
And all these Zero pilots that saw Yamamoto get shot down and Ogaki in the other plane, they came home and reported what? Well, it's no coincidence, like you say. Somewhere there's a leak in our radio transmissions, but I don't think, as far from what I've read, that there was any indication of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't get it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just say, two quick things? Would you please tell us what Dead Reckoning is? And also, okay, and Kim Munson, which is, you know, the radio show that's 560 AM radio, and she does a program Saturday and Sundays, okay? And that's basically...
Veteran Salute.
Yeah, but it's Saturday night at 10 o'clock you can tune in to klzradio.com and get that. And Sunday night at klzradio.com, or just turn your radio on to the first AM radio dial on the dial, 560, at 10 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. And then the beginning starts on Sunday at 3 p.m. So you got 2 hits on Sunday, okay? So I just mentioned that, but she interviewed a woman who was in a Japanese concentration camp, and I never knew there were 400 Japanese concentration camps, which was far more than the Germans, okay? So I just mentioned that, not related to Yamamoto, but for people to know there were 400 concentration camps, and they were brutal, you know, that interview. So the interviews to listen to are Saturday and Sunday at 10 p.m., okay?
Well, that one place in the Philippines, the Japanese commander was incredible. He let everybody, all of 1,000 people of different nationalities, mostly Americans, set up their own government, police their own people, and they had the same food as the Japanese did until kind of the end of the war when everyone was running out of food.
Well, that's not the story this other woman
No, but I
told.
really
I'm
like
just
that.
saying,
No, it
maybe
was a
that was
different
one of
This was in-
300.
This was in Manila.
Okay, that was in Manila, but I'm just telling you, it's bad.
And I was so impressed when I read that.
I don't know if
It
we
was
got,
a survival.
want to take time for one quick question?
The fighter, the 0 fighters on that Brunei, is that the right pronouncing? The ones that were supposed to come.
Yeah,
from-
Zero or Zeke, it's the same
zero-
airplane,
The 0 fighters,
yeah.
they were supposed to come to escort. was there any-
Yamamoto, and after they all survived. The Japanese and the Germans were kind of very particular and very precise, as you can see from actually the minute that
Yeah.
Mitchell was looking for, 9:35. And so they, I forget where I was going with that. What was your question?
The question was that those fighters,
Oh, yeah.
0
yeah,
fighters
Yeah,
were on the island, they were supposed to come,
yeah,
come escort.
yeah.
Were they
Correct me.
late in getting off off the runways, or?
They-
or because they weren't expecting this,
The 6 made it back to the base, to Rabaul, I guess, and they vowed to shoot down as many American planes as possible. Two of them were shot down a couple of months later, and then another 2. Only one of the 6 pilots survived World War II, and one of them, I put his name up there, shot down over 40 American airplanes, and the one survivor went into, he didn't want to talk about his wartime experiences until about 20 or 30 years later. And I didn't make the slides up, that the Museum of the Pacific, how many of you been in Fredericksburg, Texas? Anybody been to Museum of the Pacific? It's a great museum. It's about an hour north of Fredericksburg. It's about an hour north. Yeah, it's a great video. Anyhow, in 1988 he was convinced to hold a panel, and they invited all of the remaining the kill team and all of the P-38 pilots. And there was only 7 of them left alive at the time. One of them was Rex Barber, and he appeared there, and they interviewed him, and I couldn't get anything out of the museum to add to my. But I thought that was really, and then he died 20 years later. Yeah.
And I think your question too was about the aircraft that they were doing, where Yamamoto was supposed to land. I think I heard a number as high as 76 Zeros that were there.
Oh, really? In Boeing?
I think it was in the video, or it was somewhere else I read that one of the last P-38s that was leaving, it may have been Mitchell, said he saw the dust kicking up on that airfield, and all those Zeros were trying to get up there, of course, and get revenge. They probably didn't know that Yamamoto had been shot down, but they know that they'd been attacked by these P-38s.
Right.
So, and I think one of Mitchell's last comments was, let's get the hell out of here,
Yeah,
because
that
he saw
was,
those aircraft.
that was on one of his slides.
Yeah.
Dead reckoning.
Okay.
Do you have time for a definition of dead reckoning?
Go right ahead.
Set a course and then what?
I think Mitchell should have got the Medal of Honor because he had the key to getting there at the right time, and better to be a minute early than a minute late. So they got there just enough early to, I'm sure their spirits sunk until somebody crawled out bogeys, 12 o'clock high or whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about the installation of a compass? Didn't all the P-38s have compasses, and wouldn't you need
having-
that for dead reckoning?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of Navy compass it was, but it was more accurate than what was in the P-38. Yeah, that's the only thing the only modification they made.
Can I comment on dead reckoning?
Please.
In Alaska, if you don't reckon correctly, you end up dead.
Finally got a definition.
No, it's, dead reckoning is the first thing any pilot learns when he's going from point A to point Z. You take the heading, you have an airspeed, and you fly for so long, and theoretically you're there. You don't see the ground at all.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't take into account is winds and any other variables that can happen. So dead reckoning is basically, okay, I'm headed in that direction for 10 minutes, then I'm headed in that direction for 12 minutes, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna hit how he got there a minute ahead, a minute ahead, you're right, he should have got the Medal of Honor.
Nellie, don't pilots also call it flying by the seat of your pants?
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
I might add also that Navy pilots were a little better at dead reckoning all the time. The Army pilots had an island to go back to.
There you go.
I just wanted to say,
Navy pilots did that.
We've got time for a few more questions, very quickly. Go right ahead.
this fine veteran has told us that there are 44,000 German concentration camps.
So they had a lot more than the Japanese
Yeah,
did.
I didn't
Oh,
know
yeah.
that, okay.
Yeah.
I thought 400 was a lot.
It is a lot, but 44,000.
44,000.
Latvia, Lithuania,
Okay, Don.
All righty.
Are we
All right,
done?
well, thank you once again, folks. Give Bill a nice
Thank you.
Encore!
And don't forget, we will be sharing this DVD here. And again, one of the reasons that I would highly suggest this is because it does have some interviews with Rex Barber, John Mitchell. So it's very interesting. Runs about maybe 45,